Hello, my name is Paul Marchbanks, and this is Digging in the Dirt. Today I'll be sharing reflections on Ingmar Bergman's Through a Glass Darkly, a Swedish film released in 1961. Words can be richly evocative and endlessly slippery. They can help us sketch a rainbow, recall a favorite moment of intimacy, and challenge another's dull account of a life-changing event. Words can also fail miserably, confusing technical directions that could have been straightforward, mismatching users of a dating app overly excited by one particular descriptor, and bringing hostile countries to the brink of an avoidable war. In an age in which near mathematical precision at least appears attainable in manufacturing and maybe personal finance, words can seem a clunky mechanism for expressing any kind of truth. When the same word can mean three different things depending on its context, can shift its signification from century to century, and can find no exact replica when translated into another language, it can be tempting to kick words to the curb and instead major in numbers. The word love presents a very difficult challenge, given the many figurative and literal ways we use it. Variety, which can confuse those convinced of love's importance. What is love? How should we practice it? And are there any reliable principles or directions for those living in the 21st century? The year I graduated college, way back in 1993, the singer Hadaway released one of my favorite Eurodance songs of the era, the relatively silly, plaintive, "What is love? Baby, don't hurt me." Embedded in this very repetitive song are the words, "I don't know why you're not fair. I give you my love, but you don't care. So, what is right and what is wrong? Give me a sign." Notice how the plea for equality or fairness in a relationship spills into a larger ethical question about the very nature of morality, and the desire for a clarifying signal or sign that will illuminate a path forward. When the very closest relationships fall apart, it can feel like absolutely nothing is reliable. We can easily conclude that everything seems unfair because actually it's all quite random. There's no real order to human existence beyond what we try to impose on it. So expecting something as complex as a romance to last a lifetime is ridiculous. In his first canonical letter to the ancient church at Corinth, written 2,000 years ago, Paul of Tarsus suggests that loving well involves a few universal principles that transcend time. He encourages his readers to behave in a demonstratively loving way, echoing the declaration in the book of James that faith without works, or acts of love, is dead. Paul goes further, proposing not only that love is greater than faith and hope, that it provides the very soil in which faith and hope can grow, but that the motivation behind attempts at love really matters. In his famous definition of agape or agape, which has been rehearsed at many a wedding ceremony throughout the centuries, Paul plays the role of not only theologian, but sociologist and psychologist, all wrapped up in one. Love, he writes, is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Ingmar Bergman, the son of a Lutheran pastor who wrestled with questions of faith throughout his career, definitely had this elaborate definition in mind when he developed the four characters in Through a Glass Darkly, a film that provides case studies in three types of love relationships. Though Bergman dedicates this film to his current wife, Kabi Larate, his portrayal of romance draws from all four of his marriages up to this point. there would be a fifth, as he constructs the fraught marital relationship between Karin and Martin. The young spouses employ significantly different operational definitions of what love should entail. Martin exercises the patience and kindness Paul recommends, assuring Karin that he will stick with her through thick and thin. When pressed, however, one realizes that he is keeping a record of wrongs. When Karin declares, "He that loves for real always does right by his loved one," probably with the 4 always of 1 Corinthians in mind, Martin responds, "In that case, you don't love me." It's not surprising that Martin is somewhat miffed, as they haven't made love in quite some time. We watch 2 attempts at intimacy rebuffed right in front of us. On the other hand, the pride Paul warned against provides one of the keystones on which the relationship currently rests. Martin, a medical doctor and a university lecturer, is also acting as his wife's psychiatrist. If you're really interested in the kind of damage that clinical arrogance can cause in the domestic sphere, particularly within a marriage, I recommend Lars von Trier's very gnarly film Antichrist. Martin's hubris may not lead to the physical violence of von Trier's film, but the timing of his various interventions and attempts at closeness leaves something to be desired. The failures of Karin's father, David, are even more glaring. He cannot bear to be around family for too long. He has no patience for their messy needs, and his tendency to treat their problems as raw material for his fiction writing definitely involves self-seeking and dishonor to others. His children wish he would stick around longer instead of heading off on yet another lengthy trip. Their longing to bridge the relational gap is palpable. The resources he pours into his professional activities do not deepen the connection with his family. He does not invite them into the creative process, chooses to hide the roles they play in his storylines, and appears to write his novels while away from home. He's not around to provide any form of protection, apparently does not trust them not to interrupt his own creative process, offers no hope for their respective futures, particularly that of Karin, and definitely fails to persevere in relationship building beyond the current captive moment framed within the film. The last critical love relationship is the most difficult to decipher, that between Karin and her brother Minas. Their multifaceted affection incorporates her useful expertise in Latin instruction, their mutual need for someone they can be honest with, given their father's standoffishness, and possibly a shared need for physical as well as emotional connection. Whether their complex love for one another does more good than harm, whether it maps well onto Paul's definition of love, is an open question, unresolved by the film's ending. Bergman likes such enigmatic plot elements and provides them in a number of titles immediately following this one, including Winter Light, The Silence, and Persona. Relationships constitute a reliable quandary in many of his films, partially because whatever love his characters succeed in generating seems inextricably tied up with their ideas about God. Notice that Bergman named this film About Love after a Bible passage which immediately follows Paul's extended definition of love, a passage which reminds his readers at Corinth that love of both God and other humans is necessarily incomplete due to our faulty perceptions. In the ancient King James translation, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 12 reads, "For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known." English translations of the original Greek vary widely. Some interpret the surface into which one gazes as a mirror, not a glass, and others select the preposition in instead of through. One translation suggests that we're looking through a translucent but blurry surface to something beyond it, while the other suggests that we're looking at a reflection that captures both ourselves and whatever lies far behind us. Bergman's film arguably pivots on both translations simultaneously. His characters have difficulty peering through the maelstrom of emotions surrounding them, in part because unsure about their own motivations, as well as whether the God they sense intuitively can provide guidance or not. Minos asks his father for some proof of God, and David, whose many failures at loving might well disqualify him as an authority, suggests that human love is proof of God because it is God. This mollifying perspective applies the label of love to, well, all kinds of behavior that would not normally earn this label. Not only the trust advocated by Paul, but distrust. Not only longing, but denial. Love, according to David, requires neither a supernatural deity nor a moral law to regulate human behavior. It's a definition that dissolves the nature of God into all things human. As Bergman admitted 30 years after the film's release, Through a Glass Darkly was, quote, a desperate attempt to present a simple philosophy. God is love, and love is God. What do you think? Does his film clarify the nature of love or muddy the waters further?